So the Feldenkrais method is, the full name for it is actually the Feldenkrais method of somatic education. The idea behind it is that by using movement, I can learn to do anything better. Feldenkrais was an engineer, a martial artist, a physicist. You know, he worked with the Curies, and he used all that knowledge to develop a method that uses the brain and body as a unit. So our culture has had a tendency to separate brain from body, you know, or even say that the brain's in charge of the body. And he was really the first person to say that the brain is the body. And so he felt that instead of talking and analyzing, that you could learn to become a better person or a more functional person by learning how you move. He said how you move is how you move through life. So that's the theory or the philosophy behind it. How we do it is through specific movements that people can learn in groups. They're very small, very subtle, very delicate movements that allow a person to expand their field of attention. Instead of doing a big movement where they feel they have to perform or execute or imitate, each person works according to their ability, experiencing the movement and allowing the nervous system to process it as information, because all movement is information. And then we also work with people one-on-one where they don't even have to do the movement, the practitioner moves them. So it opens up the field of attention even more.
And what inspired you to get involved with this work?
Well, what inspired me was what inspires a lot of people, actually, and that was chronic pain. In my former life, I was a performer. I worked as a mime, a clown, a choreographer, a very, very physical lifestyle. And my back hurt all the time, especially after a show. And there was nothing wrong with me, technically, nothing wrong with me. And I had spent an awful lot of money on chiropractors, acupuncturists, massage therapists. And after my first Feldenkrais class, I had no back pain. And that was $10. And so I was like, okay, there's something here. So it was just a series of magical events that I just happened to find out about a training right when I was getting excited, and I dove in. I had no intention of being a practitioner at the time. But by the time I was done, I knew that this was something very important for the world.
And what's the journey been like since then? What kind of things have you seen? What have you discovered for yourself, for others?
Well, I would say the most important thing that I've discovered, I mean, you're looking back on a lifetime, is that every single thing that I've done has led to where I am today. I mean, if I think back, you know, to when I was 20 and becoming a mime, the reason I became a mime was because I thought I could change the world by expressing my feelings to other people and having them see things, and being really, really interested in how we communicate through our bodies. Cut to. No, so here I am working with people and helping them learn how to express themselves and how to understand what their emotions are doing. And now I've got the science. So I've got the theater, I've got the art, I've got the science, and I love to communicate. I mean, as a mime, I was a communicator. As a writer, I'm a communicator. So it's almost as if there was a plan, but I always felt like I was just kind of floating from one thing to another. And yet looking back, you could say, oh yeah, she knew. She knew she was going to become a body language expert. But I didn't.
And you find there are certain groups of people that benefit the most from this program of practice?
Well, you know, that's one of the problems, I think, with Feldenkrais, because I really believe that it can benefit everybody. Because everybody has a body and a brain and a dream. I know that sounds crazy, but Feldenkrais said that he developed this method not so that you would have better shoulder joints or walk better. He said it was to realize your avowed and unavowed dreams. So how could moving better help you realize your dreams? And his idea was that if I know what I'm doing, if I know how I move, if I know how I react to people, if I know where I'm getting in my own way, I'm going to get what I want. And so to me, the work is about that. So it could be for anybody. The populations that seem to be the most attracted to it, that's a different question, right? So there's senior citizens, older people who would like to maintain their mobility. And then the opposite is people at the peak of their performance, whether they're athletes, dancers, musicians, they gravitate to it because they want to be even better. And then in between, we have people with neurological challenges, babies and children with developmental issues, people who need a little help to get along the way. And so, you know, it's all of that. It's awesome, actually.
Can I ask how it's helped you to reach your vowed or unavowed dreams?
Oh my gosh, there's so many levels to that question. You'll have me here all day. But I suppose the major one was when I was, I guess from the time I was like 4 or 5 years old, I told people I wanted to be a writer. I wanted to write. And then some things happened in school where I was censored, where I was shut up. Certain things about my writing were, I went to Catholic school, maybe that'll answer everything. And so I literally shut up. I mean, I had TMJ. My mouth, for 2 years, my mouth wouldn't open. And then I became a mime, you know? So I was constantly silent. And in my training, all of a sudden, the words started to come out. And so to me, that is the biggest unavowed, now avowed dream. I've written 5 books. I've created half a dozen audio programs. I have a monthly column. To me, writing is like, you know, I mean, I've written a bunch of novels that are in my file cabinet, but at least I wrote them, you know? So to me, that would not have happened if I hadn't accessed something that could let go of this feeling of being shut down. Does that make sense?
It does. Maybe to just delve into a little more, what would you say is the link between the movement and the physical and this transformation and opening up and writing?
So for me, and I can only speak about my own experience, as agile and as kind of proficient as I was as a performer, the core behind it was a kind of nervous tension, a need to perform, a need to be, you know, the best in the room. There was, probably that was the cause of some of my pain. And then when I would write something, this feeling of tension would overcome my body and I would abandon the project. Oh, this sucks. No one's going to want to read it. And the feeling inside of me was similar to certain anxieties that so Feldenkrais talks a lot about body anxiety patterns. So through movement, I began to realize how physically I was getting in my own way, how this anxiety pattern would build up in me when I actually had to hand somebody a piece of paper that had my words on it. And then I didn't feel that anymore. So it's without analysis, without story, just finding a way to relax the body, to be ready for whatever comes my way, to be okay if they say, well, we don't like your piece, you know, to be okay with that. You know, to say there's a direct cause and effect thing would diminish the power of his work because it's not Descartesian. I really feel that his work is quantum, thinking of the whole body, the body-mind as reflections of each other. As my body became more organized, my mind and my life became more organized. Does that help?
It does, that's great.
Okay, cool.
And then this last part is anything at all that you want to share without a question, just anything that comes to mind.
I think that from the perspective of my relationship to the experiences I've had here, I just want to share with people that the Feldenkrais method can enhance any person's practice. It can improve a meditation practice. Feldenkrais himself, of course, was a master at yoga, and many of his lessons were based in yoga asanas. And so therefore, that understanding of how the body can integrate a study that's as ancient as yoga can be very valuable for a place like this. I really do feel that the Feldenkrais method is for everyone.
And talking a little about this place, did you have a favorite physical place here or part of the experience?
Well, in terms of a favorite physical place, just being in the mountains, you know. We didn't get a lot of sun this weekend, but those moments where I could look out over the mountains and see the sun coming in was stupendous. It was really, really beautiful. And I thought that our classroom, I'm assuming all the classrooms are the same, but you know, the classroom was an excellent place for learning, a beautiful space with a great vibe. So for myself as a teacher, that was great. But in terms of favorite place, I don't know. I'd have to stay here a couple more weeks, and then I'll let you know.
You would love some time. Bob, anything you want to ask?
Talked about the album method.
You know, it's so interesting that you're bringing that up, because last night I was reading about Sri Sri Ravi Shankar and how he was speaking about every emotion is associated with a rhythm of the breath. So the album method, to answer, it's a Western approach to emotion regulation that integrates the breath, the face, and the postural attitude. So that's the other thing I teach. It's more recent for me. I mean, I've been doing it for 10 years, but I've only recently become certified to actually teach people on the outside. And to me, it's very related to Feldenkrais, and I integrate it with Feldenkrais. But when I read that about Ravi Shankar, I thought, well, you know, of course, the Bharatanatyam talked about that 2,000 years ago, but now there's this Western approach that is very viable for people and very useful. And I would be curious someday because I know that he has certain breathing exercises that free up the emotions, but has he actually patterned them out? That was a question that I had, because the patterns are really interesting. Every emotion has a breath pattern. Is that enough? I mean, you know, I could go on and on about Elba too.
Thank you for sharing.
Thank you.